Ladies and gentlemen, this is music to my ears, exclusive. Dozens of former Bush officials leaving Republican Party, calling it Trump cult. Reuters, February 1st, 2021. Dozens of Republicans in former President George W. Bush's administration are leaving the party, dismayed by a failure of many elected Republicans to disown Donald Trump after his false claims. So he had nothing to do. His claims, his argument pertaining to the past couple of months had nothing to do with those people at the Capitol. Nothing. He did not tell those people to commit those horrendous acts. That's why in a court of law, they are not taking Trump to a court of... They're not leveling any charges at President Trump. They are speaking as if he's a guilty criminal who deliberately told people to commit heinous acts. The narrative, the media spin, the propaganda is that President Trump is directly responsible. He's culpable for what took place. Yet they don't take him, they don't accuse him formally, or nobody's ever charged him or indicted him in a court of law. The mayor of D.C., the attorney general of D.C. hasn't done that. Why? Because he's protected under the First Amendment. They use the word peaceful within his speech, which I love how every single news outlet omits that. And just like they've accused him of saying things, he never called the pandemic a hoax. He never said there were fine people who were, you know what? That never happened. You look at the actual transcripts, and even the C-SPAN, he's like, and I'm not talking about the 1930s and 1940s Germans. And with the pandemic, he was talking about the media spin. He wasn't talking about the actual issue itself. But see, with President Trump, you have the image, or you have this monster that they've created. In terms of accomplishments, he's infinitely better than George W. Bush and a great deal better than President Obama. President Obama led a failed NATO intervention. If Trump is directly responsible for things that he had nothing to do with, like he did not tell anyone to do anything, President Obama told NATO, or led a NATO intervention that caused Libya to become a failed state. He destroyed a country. And it was a well-meaning intervention. It didn't work out, but the results were catastrophic. With Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, it was even worse. Or just as bad, if you want to. It was horrendous. And Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, President Obama, they're two sides of the same coin. Bush started the era of never-ending military conflicts, counterinsurgency quagmires, and President Obama continued those. President Trump reversed U.S. foreign policy. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Tell your friends about this channel. We're moving up, and it's because of you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. We're going to hit 200,000 subscribers very soon. It's because of you. Tell everybody you know about this channel. Go to HAGoodman.com. You can read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post. Read my Jerusalem Post op-ed on AOC. Very important. And that's on my website, HAGoodman.com. You can see my debates. And to my new Patreons, thank you so very, very much. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason that the Bush-era Republicans don't like President Trump. There's a reason why the Obama Democrats can't stand President Trump. There's a reason why establishment Democrats and rhino Republicans don't like Trump. Because he's not part of their club. He's not part of their world. He's not part of their circle. They are okay with interventions, military interventions, regime changes, and wars. Trump is opposed to those things. He's the first president in decades not to have started a new war. That is an amazing accomplishment in and of itself. But President Trump presided over the beginning of détente between North and South Korea. First president to step foot in North Korea. President Moon Jae-in stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize, and according to recent news articles you can read, the president of South Korea has asked Biden to continue what Trump accomplished and what Trump started. President Trump's legacy is a legacy of peace in terms of foreign policy. Of course, there were missteps even in terms of foreign policy, but not as many and not nearly as profound in terms of missteps as the Bush years and what President Obama did in Libya and other countries as well. President Obama's administration spent something like $500 million on like something absurd like 5 or 10 rebels. Okay, a covert operation in Syria. President Trump ended all of that. And when the Washington Post found out, they said, oh, that's what Putin wants. So, I mean, the whole thing, and they set up and framed Trump. It was the establishment Republicans and Democrats that set up and framed Trump. And you're going to see in 2022, there is no civil war or ideological battle. That's not happening. That's not happening. There is no battle in terms of ideology within the Republican Party. President Trump has a 90% approval rating. So you can see right now it's not only these Trump Republicans leaving. Trump stockpiles millions in donations as he faces a second impeachment trial. CNN. How is he getting millions in donations? And Liz Cheney voted to impeach President Trump, and she's like being marginalized and silenced and ostracized within the Republican Party. So how does that work? So you have 2 impeachments, but you also have 2 acquittals. They're going to acquit President Trump. But President Trump annihilated and just obliterated Jeb Bush within like a matter of days. Jeb Bush was supposed to be the nominee in 2016. It was his turn. He was, he was actually supposed to be the smartest Bush of all, which is hilarious because the imbecile baby Bush, his brother George, did his best to destroy the planet. But you couldn't get a worse president. You couldn't get a president that was more inept and destructive and clueless than George W. Bush. Here's a man who had an intelligence community, the same community. Hi, neighbor. Like you see like James Clapper like mowing his lawn. Hi, neighbor. I love when they say intelligence community. It's like maybe 10 people that run like the 17 intelligence agencies, and like there's one person, the director of national intelligence, and then there's a couple like, Central Intelligence, FBI, but like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people that really run things in terms of the intelligence community. And most of it is just furthering the policies that want to be legitimized by a sitting president, except if you're named Trump. If you're named Trump, then the intelligence community goes after you and fabricates nonsense. They're wrong on everything, from the Gulf of Tonkin to the Bay of Pigs, the Gulf of Tonkin, WMD. Tell me when the intelligence community has been right about anything. But with Bush, you had no WMD. You had an era of never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts that started, where we have Americans still in that region of the world. We should not be in that region of the world. It's a moral imperative to have voted for President Trump if you want to end these quagmires. That's how you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump. That's why I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. And the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Because Trump saved us from Hillary Clinton, who would have been more militant than President Obama and probably just as militant as Bush. And you have the neoconservative Lincoln Project, and now we're finding out the skeletons in their closet, and you better believe there are probably a lot more skeletons. A lot more skeletons. Yeah, how many people knew what was going on? And then you have one of the founders who now is at the Daily Beast, and he's always on MSNBC and CNN, just like the other guy, who went after Max Cleland, a Vietnam War veteran, a hero, and tried to paint him as disloyal. I mean, they did the same thing that Tulsi Gabbard Clinton did. These people, the operatives, are despicable. They're ruthless, and they're absolutely the worst human beings. Like, they go after Senator Max Cleland was a triple amputee Vietnam War veteran. And in the early 2000s, he opposed Bush's horrendous foreign policy that literally destabilized an entire region of the world. And the ripple effects were seen throughout the world. Like, the organizations that I can't talk about stemmed from that initial tragedy and mistake from the Bush years. So, I mean, think of all of the atrocities and the horrors and the brutality and the chaos that took place from Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld's foreign policy. And then add on to that what President Obama did in Libya and other countries. And then you look at Trump and you say, okay, détente between North and South Korea, the beginning of peace, Abraham Accords, peace between Israel, Morocco, UAE, Bahrain, economic deals between Serbia and Kosovo, and, okay, tariffs with China that were working before the pandemic. That's a fact. They say, well, they didn't work now. They factor in the past year. Nothing worked with the economy or anything the past year. And you look at the unemployment rate, the top 12 states are all Democratic-run states. You look at the New York Times, they have the worst outcomes in terms of the pandemic. That's a fact. It's not Trump's fault. But now you have Republicans. You have one Republican, what's his name, who's starting a PAC. So you have, like, Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, there are other people, and like, we're going to take back the Republican Party. We're going to make it a neoconservative regime change fundamentalist party again, when it was a good political party. And the Democrats are fine with that. Because they live in a world, they're still stuck in the 90s, early 2000s. They don't realize that Trump isn't really a Republican. He is, but not really. He's never, like, Jeff Sessions investigated Trump. Like, Jeff Sessions, look, that message board, the Q nonsense, is the most absurd, dangerous hoax, and I've been telling people for 2 years. I'm not right about everything, but if people listened to me when I told you 2 years ago, get off Twitter, I do not have Twitter, okay? Twitter is a forum and a platform for, pathetic, imbecile losers who hide behind phony profiles just because they're too frightened to have their profile picture out there. And so they can go ahead and try to mock and insult people. That's it. And then it's just it's a cauldron of liberal angst and frustration. You have the most apoplectic, angry, like, seething, fuming, hysterical, morally superior people on Twitter. It's a boiling pot of crap. That's basically what it is. So, that's a forum for like, Medicare for all. And then when somebody like Jimmy Dore says, well, yeah, how about now? We have the House, the Democrats have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And then you see people, we can't now, we can't. So they don't run on policy. Democrats don't have policies that they really care about. They run on intelligence operatives, corrupt intelligence operatives, a virtual monopoly on political discourse, late night talk show, Hollywood. You literally will not work in Hollywood. If you like Trump, or if you say, hey, you know what, I'm voting for President Trump because I want to end regime changes. I want to end military interventions. The morally superior liberals say, no, it's impossible. He's a despot. He's a tyrant. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, and made the funding permanent, and absolved $300 million in Katrina loans, which is all he should have done. Should have been $1 billion a year. permanently. But it was good. That's good what he did. Signed prison reform legislation. Despots are not known for prison reform legislation and working against regime changes or military interventions. But see, again, Yad Vashem had to refute AOC's dangerous revisionist history. So, on a topic that she should never speak about. And I wrote about that in the Jerusalem Post. Read that in my op-ed on hagoodman.com. But, ladies and gentlemen, Trump has transformed the Republican Party, thank God, into a populist political party that is opposed to Jeb Bush or George W. Bush's foreign policy. The fact that you have the Lincoln Project and neoconservatives in the Democratic Party right now proves my point. I've been saying this for a long time. There's no real difference there's no major difference, at least on foreign policy, between Democrats and the never-Trumpers. And you're going to see in 2022, Republicans, I do believe, will take back the House with people who win primaries that are Trump Republicans. A populist political party is a very good thing. The left doesn't have that because they cheated Bernie Sanders. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. They blamed Russia for 4 years. Then they got mad at Trump for doing exactly what they did for 4 years, for 2 months. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. They're now, oh my goodness, it's so sad. The Republicans are finally coming to grips with the reality that Trump pretty much controls the party and will definitely control the party in 2022 and beyond. Give me your thoughts. Thank you so very much. I'll be back a little later today, numerous times.